March 18, 2015. Room 1010 to order. Mr. Prieto, how are you?
Good morning. Very well.
Good afternoon. What's item number one?
Item number one, Board of Public Works report relative to authority to apply, accept, and execute agreements for contract funding from Leonardo Technologies, U.S. Department of Energy, for the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition program. You have staff from the Bureau of Sanitation.
Fantastic. We'd invite, is Wayne and Arnil here? Come on up. You're the first contestants here on the Energy and Environment Committee.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members, and everyone present. I'm Wayne King. I'm a staff person in the Bureau of Sanitation Regulatory Affairs Division, and I'm the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition Coordinator. Just a tiny bit of backup so you know what Clean Cities is all about. Clean Cities is a national program. There's about 100 Clean Cities coalitions throughout the country. The main goal of the Clean Cities program is reduction of petroleum use. This is through emission reduction programs, use of alternative fuel vehicles, and the like. It's a framework for businesses and government agencies to work together for this process. And one of the things that the Los Angeles Clean Cities Coalition does, our stakeholders are all the major departments throughout the city, both proprietary and non-proprietary. We work with the departments to help them in any way we can for education, outreach, gathering information about new technologies, new vehicles coming to market. We conduct an annual survey, and the annual survey surveys all the alternative fuel vehicles in the fleet of all the vehicles throughout the city, all of our emission reduction programs, and some of our outreach and other activities. The item today requests $30,000 for us to be provided to us for programmatic support, and that would be for a period ending November 15, 2015. And Arnell is with me today too. I don't know if he has anything specific to add, or he's here for questions as well.
Fantastic. How are we doing in terms of percentage of vehicles? What does our fleet look like?
We've got about 5,000 alternative fuel vehicles in the fleet. And the funny thing is, if you look at last year's numbers and this year's numbers, having just completed the survey, the numbers are a little bit lower. This is because some of our alternative fuel vehicles, the city adopted alternative fuel vehicles almost 20 years ago. Not in the numbers we have now. In 1999, I think we had about 660 alternative fuel vehicles. A lot of propane and natural gas, either liquefied natural gas or compressed natural gas. But we only had 660 at that point, and we now have about 4,800 of these vehicles. Last year we had just over 5,000, around 5,025. But because some of these vehicles, back to my original statement, we're getting older, they're starting to be retired, and in some cases not being replaced because, you know, we're able to do things more efficiently, or, you know, with right-sizing the fleet.
Sure. And in terms of sort of the fleet, does that take into consideration the public safety departments too? Because I don't think that that's, I mean, it's helpful to know how large the sort of the fleet is for the entire city of Los Angeles, but we know that we can't use necessarily alternative fueled vehicles yet in those departments. So
it does include those departments.
Does not?
Police and fire does.
It does.
Now, what they would include in their survey, the police have the T3, I call them the little electric-looking chariots. They almost look like a chariot that you'd see without the horse.
Right.
And they have 3 wheels, and they use those throughout the city. They're hybrid vehicles. The fire department has hybrid vehicles. Fire department, that's the majority of what you'll find there. And then in the police department, they also have an electric motorcycle that they use off-road. And so there's one of those, I think. So
of the 4,800 in the entire fleet, including the public safety agencies, what's the percentage of alternative fuel to?
Not 100% sure. I think we have about 18,000 vehicles in the fleet.
Okay.
But I would not want to quote because it might not be
Got
correct.
It. Very good. Colleagues, questions? Mr. Koretz?
Yeah, just a couple things. One, I don't think we've looked at electric as much as I'd like to see us look at, because I know we've been finding that gas is not quite as environmentally friendly as we once thought. In fact, methane is being flagged as a greater and greater piece of climate change. So I just thought this item would be a good opportunity to encourage us to look more and more at the newer technologies and more of an electric-based fleet. I also know that some of our more difficult vehicles, like garbage trucks and street sweepers, generally haven't been looked at as electric because they don't have as much power. But perhaps in some of the absolutely flat parts of the city, we could look at those as well, where they don't need that kind of power.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing that all of the city departments are doing as far as alternative fuel vehicles in general. Some, there might be the question about the methane with the natural gas, but I know that they're approaching and using vehicles in an alternative fuel format that no one ever thought a couple of years ago that we could even use. These super dump trucks that General Services Department has, they're just tremendous dump trucks that operate on natural gas. And I think you're correct, too, that the electric route is the better way to go. And, anytime there's encouragement from you guys for all the city departments to act, that would be so wonderful. We would appreciate that, too. And I will do everything I can in my role as coordinator, too.
And certainly it's not going to work in every case, but there are certainly a number of staff that wind up doing only a short amount of driving a day. So we certainly could get some all-electric vehicles for people that are out in the field and driving 15 or 20 miles a day. It would certainly be the cleanest and most logical way to go.
It really is. And I know that some of the departments, DWP, I know they have over 50 electric vehicles in their fleet. And I know General Services Department is trying a few electric vehicles in their fleet, too. And, these vehicles are just used in everyday work. Whatever needs to be done, they're there to do it. Kind of like our hybrids were a number of years ago.
Exactly.
Very good, colleagues. We do have one speaker card. Thank you very much for, Mr. Blumenfield.
Just quick, and I was a little late, so I apologize. The 30,000, there's no general fund, right? It's all it's the grant that then gets front-loaded?
Yes, it is. Arnell Aguilar with Sanitation Financial Management Division. Yes, the project needs to be, we have to incur the costs and then get reimbursed with the grant funds. And there is no general fund. It's funded through the Environmental Affairs Trust Fund.
And what other obligations do we have with the grant besides being able to do these things? Is there anything else that goes along with it?
Mr. King would just need to perform on his deliverables, and then we will receive the $30,000.
Sounds great.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation. We have one speaker card, Tut Hayes.
There was a show on TV last night, 2 a.m. Half the members of staff get that show. It talked about peak oil and oil reserves. BMW just announced its all-electric car. Should we get that sucker to buy that car and even brake? Arnold Schwarzenegger said cars that are all-electric or hybrids should be taxed on their odometer. You no doubt know that gasoline taxes allegedly go for the maintenance of highways and bridges and things of that nature. No fool who looks at anything goes on in Sacramento believes that. They do anything they want to with highway tax funds. So the question is, are you people in energy acquainted with the fact that oil is finite. Eventually, it will not exist anymore. So alternative fuels for cars and everything else we need has to be found. The question is, why does New York City, London, Moscow have a subway system? When the freeway is creeping along at 7 miles an hour, emitting all those fumes, there's one place in Los Angeles you can travel at 70 miles an hour. That's the last leg of the Red Line subway. That's what a subway can do. But we're punishing the people in LA by putting trains on the ground, which kill them, which creep along at 5 miles an hour going downtown. That's the Expo line. Get on it and ride it. Don't take my word for it. Read about it. So if you don't think about a subway system in this city, you are just as much of a betrayal of the people of this city as all those politicians who have gone before.
Very good, colleagues. We'll go ahead and approve the Board of Public Works request to authorize the Bureau of Sanitation to apply, accept, and execute agreements for contract funding in the amount of $30,000 from the Department of Energy to support the city's Clean Cities Coalition efforts and related matters. Very good. Item number 2.
Item number 2, Bureau of Sanitation report in response to motion, Parks O'Farrell, relative to the city's hazardous waste operations and facilities operating within the city. Staff from the Bureau of Engineering.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Council Member, Chair. My name is Michael Simpson. I'm from the Bureau of Sanitation, and we're joined by Captain Ken Miller from the Captain's Fire Marshal's Office.
Correct.
That's correct. I'll give a brief report on how the City of Los Angeles handles hazardous waste, and then I'll give it to Ken to particularly talk about the Cooper program, and then we will field your questions. Today, we have 2 million tons of hazardous waste generated in California each year, in which the City of Los Angeles contributes 87,000 tons, or 16%. The Department of Toxic Substance Control, one of 5 departments on board within Cal EPA, manages hazardous waste. On the local level, DTSC oversees the hazardous waste activity through local agencies. The city has a comprehensive and integrated program for the management of hazardous waste. In the City of Los Angeles, 3 agencies that's concerned with hazardous waste: Bureau of Sanitation, Los Angeles Fire, and County Fire, regulate the use, storage, and disposal of hazardous waste. Specifically talking about LA Sanitation, we use 5 program elements to manage hazardous waste. The 5 elements are the Residential Special Material Conditional Exempt Small Quality Generator, that's our safe centers, Bandit Hazardous Waste Pickup, Industrial Waste Pretreatment Program, Surveillance Monitoring Environmental Crimes Task Force, and the management of hazardous waste from waste generated from the city facilities. LA San operates 7 collection centers to allow businesses and residents that generate a small quantity of hazardous waste a legal way and affordable way for disposals. These centers are called SAFE centers. SAFE stands for solvents, automobiles, flammables, and electronics. We provided service to 90,000 residents and serviced 300 small businesses during the last fiscal year. We also have Watershed Protection Division. They manage the pickup of hazardous waste and ban it in the public right-of-way. We also have the division I'm from, the Industrial Waste Management, the federal mandated pretreatment program, in which 16,000 businesses are expected for regulating and controlling the discharge of industrial wastewater. During this facility visit, at least a minimum once a year, inspectors audit facilities to ensure hazardous waste are handled in accordance with federal and state law. Also, LA San participates on the Los Angeles Area Environmental Crimes Task Force and performs surveillance monitoring to investigate suspected illegal discharges, which could be hazardous waste. Since January 2013, there has been no major violations involving discharging of hazardous waste into our sewers. Also, we provide management of hazardous waste generated from our facilities operated by LA San within the city. Now, after this is all the stuff the Bureau of Sanitation does within our city forces. Then we also work with LA Fire Department. It's the City Certified Uniform Program Agency, better known as CUPA. The CUPA provides consolidation of hazardous material and waste agencies under one agency. The LA Fire Department Cooper programs involve hazardous materials, release response plans, or better known as community right to know. They also do underground storage tank program inspection, above ground petroleum storage tank spill prevention control and countermeasure plans, hazardous waste generator and on-site hazardous waste treatment programs, and the California Accidental Release Prevention Program. Now, the LA Fire Department has an agreement with the city as part of the Cooper program to work with LA Fire to look at the hazardous waste generator and on-site hazardous waste treatment programs. So we think we do a great job in the city of Los Angeles hazardous waste, handling hazardous waste, and we haven't had any big failures yet in our system. It's a comprehensive system involving 2 bureaus in LA County Fire. I have Ken's going to talk a little bit more about the Cooper program and how we work with LA County Fire to do the on-site inspection of hazardous waste generators.
Good afternoon. Kenny Miller, assigned to the Fire Marshal's Office, Bureau of Fire Prevention, Public Safety, LA Fire Department. Michael mentioned a number of things I was going to talk about, but as you know, the LA Fire Department became a certified unified program agency in 1997. The overriding goal of any CUPA is the efficient management of its 6 elements. He mentioned a few of them. One of those is the hazardous waste generator and treatment programs, which is currently conducted or administered through the participating agency. The participating agency in this case is LA County Fire Department. Our job is to oversee the participating agency and to ensure that they are in compliance with state and local mandates and requirements. We do that through our MOU. We have an MOU between the 2 departments. The MOU is specific in its requirements with regards to inspection and reporting procedures to the state. It talks about quarterly meetings, mandatory meetings, and it's our responsibility to audit the CUPA on an annual basis. If you have any specific questions on the inspection process, I can bring one of the members up from LA County Fire Department to answer that. But that's a brief, just a brief synopsis on the participating agency's role in our CUPA's program.
So, a quick question for you. So, I know that there's the sort of proactive piece of this, but how does the sort of the community at large get a hold of you if they're suspicious of sort of hazardous waste that's being spilled, or I mean, how do they sort of get you all to go out there and respond?
Yeah, do you want for the fire department?
For either one of your programs.
Well, for us, it's 911. For us, it's we get called out non-emergency on a number of times per day on non-emergency hazardous materials, hazardous waste. We typically refer those to LA County for cleanup. I could have them come up and answer specifically, but that's typically how we do, or non-emergency through our website, 311, or directly to the fire department.
And do we get any state support for these mandates? Because presumably these are sort of federal and state laws. Do we get any sort of resources from the state? Not resources, but the actual program, the CUPA program, is fee supported through our permit process, so it doesn't cost the city money. Got it.
Sure.
For my knowledge, I think we get most of our calls with 311 or 911, or we're also on the first responder list with LA Police and sheriffs. So that's where we get most of our response for hazardous waste. Also, a citizen usually calls their council member, and the council member calls us through their deputy to take a look at this. Get a lot of calls that way, too.
And you all are also responsible for running sort of like e-waste and that sort of thing, the drop-off centers. Is that you all? I mean, sanitation, but is it also part of the SAFE program?
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. More of those that we can do, the better, because I know that in the sort of the warm months, it feels like we have those fairly routinely throughout the city of Los Angeles, and I think it's fantastic so we can help inform folks on where to take their hazardous materials. Colleagues, any questions? Mr. Blumenfield?
Yeah, the relationship with DTSC, are they holding up their end of this, or we end up doing more because they're not doing their piece of it? Or is it a good partnership? How does that work?
I'm going to let you out.
We really work with the fire and county the most. I really don't see DTSC in our office too much. I know they had some failures in the past, but our program is running right. We don't get any funding for DTSC. Sometimes they'll come to a conference to tell us how to prevent pollution. As you know, hazardous waste is a growing thing, so DTSC is trying to move into source control. How can we control up the source? And we work with DTSC on that a bit much on the Blue Ribbon Green Chemistry Program.
Sir, Teresa from LA County Fire Department is here. She can answer your question probably.
Yeah, in regards to DTSC, they normally come out here if they evaluate the CUPA which is them in regards to the oversight for how we oversight as your participating agency we're the participating agency that administers the hazardous waste program. So they normally come here to evaluate us and evaluate them. And there are also times they come out here to do a joint inspection with us. If they have certain concern but brought up by the community, we do the same joint inspection with them.
Because they have some oversight responsibilities and just curious how that all plays out and they've had their issues in the past. But you're saying they come out for inspections, but generally they're not present.
They do conduct performance evaluation for Coupa, and that also they look at us, how we administer our program, and that is done every 3 years. So they come out and see if we have done or perform our inspections for those regulated businesses.
They don't have any line responsibilities in terms of waste or anything. That all falls on us.
That's correct.
No.
Right? I mean, that's my understanding, but I wasn't sure given sort of the complicated, what seems to me a little bit complicated, the relationship. So, but my understanding is that the actual cleanup work is all on our shoulders. And they're more just regulating and oversight?
Yes, oversight. Oversight of our how we administer the program.
I'm not sure we're even answering your question properly. I'd like to give you more information, but I'm not sure. I'm not really clear on what you're asking, sir.
Well, I'm trying to understand the relationship with DTSC and whether or not they have responsibilities that are sort of complementary for what we're doing, or if they're really more just kind of overseeing us.
You know, I'll give my point of view is DTSC is the oversight for us. They refer complaints to us. We track our complaints. We solve those complaints and we refer back to them that we are handling them. And membership, the department also participates in the triannual evaluation of our Coupa program as a 5-member board. That's their role as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know.
Great.
Okay.
You've got some, it looks like, I don't know, which department are you with?
I'm from LA County Fire Department.
Please,
Come on up.
come on up and help us out here.
Yeah.
Can I maybe ask the same question a slightly different way to help
Let's see what
clarify?
he's got to say, because he's been jumping around back there, and then we'll get to Mr. Price. Go ahead.
My name is Jojo Comandante. I used to be at the emergency response section, the Health Hazmat Division, which is a participating agency to your LA City Coupa. And you asked about DTSC's role in cleanup activities, and they do have a shared cleanup responsibilities. There are certain criteria when we have spills of magnitude up to a threshold, specifically when it comes to clandestine drug laboratories. DTSC provides the funds and for the cleanup of such activities. There are some off-highway and on-highway cleanup activities, hazardous material incidents that they do fund because we cannot, as the participating agency, we cannot identify exactly who the responsible party is. Or for example, if there's a fatal incident or something like that, and it's really a big mess and we cannot, like a tanker truck or something like that, then DTSC provides some funding for that because they do have emergency funds for hazardous material incidents in the state of California.
Mr. Prince?
Yeah, my question, which may be a hair similar to yours, is I'm not entirely clear what the state's role is in all of this. We've seen articles, I've read them in passing, about how the state's doing a bad job of tracking toxic sites and how they're doing a bad job of enforcement and implementation. Is it actually their job, or is it the local municipality's job and they're being unfairly criticized? How does it work, and whose responsibility is what?
I'll talk on that, sir. Basically, the Coupa evaluation, in order to become a certified unified program agency, the state oversees that through the California Environmental Protection Agency. They certify jurisdictions to become Coupas. They did us in 1997. It's our job to manage and efficiently manage the 6 elements that we talked about earlier. What you've been reading in the paper, unfortunately, is that we haven't been doing a great job of managing that program.
But they generally talk about the state, not us. So
The
Who's
state's
where?
role is the oversight. They oversee the entire program. They have the ability to remove us as a certified agency if that's what they deem necessary. That's not our goal, obviously, but they have the oversight position on that.
So
When
when
you-
they
when
talk
you hear
about a bad job being done, are they talking about us?
They're talking about us.
Have we done a bad job in the
They're talking
in the
about
past?
us. We're going to take ownership for that. They're talking about some of the issues that are inspect. We are not, as a fire department, holding up our end of the bargain with being able to efficiently inspect every building out there, every hazardous materials site, every underground storage tank. We haven't done our job over the years. So they're talking about us.
So do they provide the funding to do it? How do we actually make sure we're able to fulfill this function?
And it's interesting you bring this up because I just spoke to the Fire Commission on this yesterday. It is it's a situation that started in last summer when we were evaluated. It's our second unsatisfactory evaluation. The difference is this time around we have a program improvement agreement that we are implementing. Council President Herb Weston is working on that with us right now. We are going to enter into a program improvement agreement to improve our actions. We were cited for 19 total deficiencies to the program. 7 of those deficiencies deal with enforcement, inspection, and reporting of underground storage tank and above ground petroleum storage tank inspections. 4 of those deal with various issues of reporting to the state back and forth. And 4 of them deal with our lack of oversight of the participating agency. 2 of them with training and complaint tracking with the DTSC, which Mr. Blumenfeld mentioned earlier. So we have total 19 deficiencies. We have a plan implemented with the new fire marshal and the new fire chief to get Coupa righted and pointed in the right direction, so we don't see any of that, those kind of articles in the paper anymore. Hopefully I was able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Colleagues, any additional questions? Hearing and seeing none, we do have one speaker card. Thank you for the presentation. Tut Hayes.
I understand I may be speaking out of ignorance because the memorandum for the public disappeared since I came in, so I haven't had an opportunity to read it. But are we really believe you're concerned about picking up hazardous waste? Not picking it up, but having drop-off centers. Sanitation picks up bulky items, refrigerators, bathtubs, couches. Put it in the alley, someplace where they can find it, they'll pick it up. But you do not have a pickup truck that someone can call. I've got these 10-gallon cans of gasoline, naphtha, whatever the hazardous waste might be, and the city will have someone dispatched in a pickup truck and go pick it up. No, you take that to a drop-off center. It may be 50 gallons of some sort of chemical that couldn't be considered hazardous. But the city doesn't take care of it because no one believes you really care about a hazard. Christmas tree drop-off. They sit on the curb till the needles fall off. I don't know how they disappear, but the city doesn't retrieve them. The city says drop it off at a center. They don't point out you can't do that with a block tree because they don't grind up block trees. I don't know what they do with them. But if you really want us to believe that our safety, our health, and all those things are of concern, do something very simple. Pick up the hazardous waste in a pickup truck. They can handle it. Send out the big ones to pick it up. But don't tell us to dispose of our hazardous waste at a drop-off center. That's insulting, I think. First of all, you no doubt know people are not going to take those Christmas trees to the drop-off center. Just goes to my neighborhood, they don't do that. Now, the waste I'm concerned about is the trash on the sidewalk and in the containers. I was surprised to realize that most of those things are not picked up by sanitation. They're the responsibility of the people who put them out there.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go to general public comment in a second. We're going to go ahead and note and file item number 2, and now we're off to general public comment. Mr. Tut Hayes.
As I mentioned to some of your colleagues I've appeared before previously, I will be back. My issue is the trains on the ground. Wikipedia this. Don't listen to me. Just Wikipedia. The LA Blue Line is the most dangerous railroad in the United States of America. One year, it's the most dangerous railroad in the world. You say, oh, how could that possibly be? Because it's only 20 miles long. Those railroads in India, in China, where people are on top of the railroad cars, they're thousands of miles long. This is 20 miles long. More than 103 people, I say 103, have been killed by this train because it's underground. Now, last week, Assemblywoman Karen Bass countered me by pointing out that most of these people killed by the train were suicides. I don't care how they died. They died because they have to cross the tracks. A vehicle, a human being, crossing a railroad track is going to be killed. That was stated by the safety director for MTA. It's a fact. One suicide in the subway, the red line I mentioned before. The other person, they don't know just why that person died. Pushed, fainted, whatever. But you don't cross the subway tracks, do you? You don't drive across the subway tracks, do you? But no, you people put the trains on the ground where there are crossings, where human beings are going to be killed. 2 police cars crashed by the train. A fire truck hit by the train. 2 buses hit by the train. The bus driver is safety conscious, you know that, but they were hit by that train. Put the trains underground. Put that Crenshaw line underground all the way to its destination.
Very good. Thank you, colleagues. That brings us to the end of the meeting. We are adjourned.